Welcome back to the Real Couchwives podcast, where we overanalyze all things Bravo. Today, we're doing things a little bit differently. We're going to do a recap of season 9, episode 5 of Southern Charm.
So once again, Austen comes between two girls, completely blows up their friendship, and then runs away, or more accurately, hides in a corner.
Because he's always just doing that for some reason.
Yeah, and then he's confused why everyone's mad at him.
So, kicking things off, Austen and Shep are having their conversation about whether or not Austen and Taylor have actually made out, have hooked up, define what that means. And Austen does confirm that he and Taylor have, in fact, kissed.
Right, but first he goes, defined hooked up, which is like, you could not look more guilty if you tried.
There's literally nothing more incriminating than define that.
Which also really makes me think, so they confirmed that they kissed.
Yeah.
But the way that went about really makes me think that this is not all that happened. Because he got Shep to tell him what hooked up meant to him. And I feel like Shep immediately just said kissed. And then he's like, sure, let's see what happens if I say kissed.
Maybe that's believable.
And he was not pleased. So he's like, maybe we should just keep this.
We're just gonna leave it there. We're gonna leave it there. So you think that they might have done something else?
I do, mainly just because of that, but then also because this is drawing out the whole season, and we're on episode 5 and we already know what happened, supposedly. So where else, how much more is there to go if this is the only story?
Well, hopefully, and that's what I'm really hoping, is I am hoping that there will be other stories that pop up along the way. We clearly know that JT and Taylor are probably gonna have a little something happen between the two of them. So we can only hope that there's some more things in store for us, because this is definitely not going to sustain us for the entire season.
No, that's it. But yeah, it was just so funny, literally right when you open the scene, Austen caves. He is pushed even at the slightest bit by Shep, and he completely folds.
He does.
Even though we later find out that they him and Taylor pretty much had a pact and a script that they were going to stick to, and he just totally left her in the dust, as he does, because Austen is out for Austen.
Austen is always out for Austen, and Austen will not be a good liar. Don't hook up with this guy and then expect him to lie for you, unfortunately. No. So best to just stay away from Austen, I think, is the moral of the story and the moral of this entire episode, really.
It's true. And I feel like we can roll a tape from when we were covering Summer House or Winter House or any of the houses. I think we were literally PSA, stop blowing up your life for Austen.
He's not worth it. Trust me.
And he won't.
Well, as if I would know,
help you.
He will not help you, and he's a piece of work. That is what I will say about this fellow.
And not to condone the lying, it's really messed up that they felt the need to basically have a script together and decide on what happened, and basically say they were going to take it to the graves, essentially, which is giving even more Scandival ties.
Oh yes, big time. Oh my god.
But it's at least if you're gonna do that, then at least commit to it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's just it. That's what's just so annoying about Austen finally telling the truth, is just you feel so bad for Taylor, because you know that Taylor's ultimately gonna be the person that pays for it, and that is clearly displayed in the fact that at the end of this scene, Shep and Austen just hug it out. They're okay, whatever, it's dead and buried. We're gonna leave it alone. And they rejoin the group, and basically everybody else is about to find out that this is what happened.
It spreads like wildfire.
It spreads like wildfire throughout the group, and really ultimately Taylor is going to be the person that pays the price for this little indiscretion, unfortunately.
I was actually really surprised at how quickly Shep moved on from this. I feel like it took him a second to process, and he obviously wasn't happy, but then he was you guys were drunk, and you were upset, and she needed a shoulder to cry on. I don't want to lose this friendship. And I was like, what?
Yeah. Well, and also like countering that with like his confessionals where he said that like Austen literally always takes what is mine. And you're like, okay, so like there clearly are like maybe some feelings that you're still harboring about this and you're just trying to play it off as being cool and like not really caring that much. But I feel like that's kind of Shep's MO a little bit sometimes.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, so the scenes continue. They have a little round robin the next day of, it's spreading like wildfire throughout the group. Madison calls Vanita, and JT and Craig also have a little FaceTime call in a very weird little setup. I don't know if you noticed how strange JT's
JT.
like very formal looking living room was. Looked like a very uncomfy couch.
Yeah, it was so funny. He was just like sitting on the couch, and then
Yes.
like on his little phone he had propped up talking to Craig, and he's just sitting on the couch like he was being interviewed.
Yeah.
I don't know. That guy just rubs me the wrong. Like that guy could just like exist, and I'm gonna be like, oh.
This couch. What an uncomfy couch. How dare you? Meanwhile, Vanita looks amazing in her very cute little like athleisure outfit and having her little like sunny coupe of like champagne or whatever she was having.
Yeah.
Having her little FaceTime. So that was much better. And I was actually surprised because we don't see like Vanita again in this episode. I feel like we've gotten like so little of her in this season so far.
I don't feel like she is like fully integrated into the group. Like out of everyone, like it doesn't feel like she has as many connections to other people.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Aside from like Madison.
Yes, agreed. And without wanting to like skip ahead too far, like even the fact that like she's not at the dinner party in this episode, I was like a little surprised because I was like, oh, that would have been like a good point for like her and like was JT even there? I don't think so.
No, and Madison wasn't there.
And Madison wasn't there. And who's the other guy? Rod?
Right. I still don't
but Rodrigo was there.
Right, Rodrigo was there. Somehow main cast member. I don't think he said a word.
Hopefully, no, he did. He actually had a good line that we'll get to later on. I clocked it. I was like, yep, like this, check, approve. Anyways, so the group is quickly finding out about the makeout that has happened between Austen and Taylor. Yeah, sorry. But unfortunately, two individuals that have not found out this information but have a little scene coming up is Olivia and Leva. They go to have lunch. And it's unfortunate because this is kind of like the last scene that we'll see of Olivia talking about Taylor in this kind of like loving way.
That's true.
She is, right? She like literally said, yeah, she like literally says like, I love Taylor. Like it's clear that like this relationship was strong and they thought that they'd be able to get past it. And like after the conversation that Taylor and Olivia had about the Austen situation and how like Taylor had very clearly stated that like nothing had happened. Here we are, and this is unfortunately just kind of like a really sticky situation for all of them to be in.
Yeah, no, that's a good point actually that you bring up, that like she is still giving her the benefit of doubt, and you can tell she like thinks something's weird about it, but she's still just trying to be like, I'm gonna hope that like that's not what happened.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think about in that scene was Leva eating her salad was really like it was very much like a Kardashian eating salad. I don't know, for some reason there's something really funny about it. She was so like riveted in the conversation, but she was just like chewing the whole time. And I thought,
yeah, I feel like salads now are just very like Kardashian coded in general.
Yeah, and then I just started thinking about how awkward it must be to be like eating while being filmed.
Yes. Oh my god, you would be like so conscious of the fact, I feel like, that you're like, So they do talk about how Olivia is still going to be going to Shep's dinner party, even though this kind of like awkward exchange has happened between her and this awkward exchange, I guess, is happening between her and Austen and Taylor at the moment. She wants to like show up, be there for it. And it's just unfortunate because we know that it's not going to take very long for her to get this news about the kiss. So Austen then has to go over to Taylor's house to confess that he's spilled the beans. I thought it was interesting because he shows up to her house with the Trop Hops, like his beer. And I was like, if you were coming to my house to tell me that you told our secret and you only brought beer, like I need flowers, I need wining and dining,
No,
I need things much better than Trop Hop.
I know. Oh gosh. Yeah, so this is where we learn that you know, they basically had a pact that they were not going to say anything, or if they were going to like, you know, do it together and decide when, very like Tom Sandoval coaching.
Yes.
Raquel.
Yeah.
And then, and I feel like really casually too, Austen's just like, yeah, so I told him what happened. And Taylor was like, what?
Yeah. What are you talking about? Like, I literally, well, and that's just it too, right? Like, she's like, I literally just told Olivia, like, hand to God, like, on my life, nothing happened between me and Austen. And like, that was Taylor, like, putting in the work and like covering up this lie for this man. And it's just like, okay, well, you just told Shep, and now this is the situation that we're in. Like, thank you so much for that. Like, even if you had like
yeah, and like honestly, in that scene, I was like feeling bad for Taylor in the situation that she was put in, even though, you know, for a big part she put herself in it. And I just like, I'm just like, I am going to flip-flop on her so much this season. I can just tell. I feel like from one scene to another, you're gonna like be frustrated with her or feel maybe a little bad, but then angry. You know, like I just feel like it's gonna be such a roller coaster.
Yeah, I think that's right. Because also, like, I think one thing that's become abundantly clear in this episode is that she just doesn't really know how to be like a girlfriend to somebody, right? Like, she doesn't know how to, or like, and by girlfriend I mean like girlfriend to like a friend to a girl. Like two girlfriends.
I get
it. Like, she just doesn't like seem to have that kind of like maybe like code or like ethics or whatever about it. Like, she definitely seems to be really caring about Shep and really caring about Austen and not really prioritizing Olivia enough, unfortunately, and kind of just maybe like resting on her laurels and thinking that Olivia is always going to be there for her because they have kind of like come up together on this show now and they're, you know, friends. But yeah, so that is very unfortunate. And I think it's also annoying because in this scene, you know, Austen says, you know, I feel so liberated, right? Like, I'm so happy that this is off my chest and it's finally out there. And it's like, wow, that's so great for you. You have no idea what this is now going to do to Olivia and Taylor's friendship, and how you're basically breaking everything for Taylor. And he also, like, even just the way that he went about this by being like, so it comes out, as you say, that they like had this like pact where they weren't going to talk about the fact that they had kissed or whatever had happened. And then when she brings that up, he's like, well, you agreed to it too. And it's like, but she did agree to it. You agreed to it too. She's not the one that you need to tell that she agreed to it too. You're the one that you need to remind yourself that you agreed to do this.
I totally forgot that. Yeah, I had such a visceral reaction when he was like, I feel so liberated. It's like zero just like self-awareness or like just like, why would you tell that to her right now? Like, I feel great. You look like shit.
This is gonna be bad for you, but I am so happy that I am done lying about this.
But me and Shep, we're gonna, you know, go back to Greece or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna be fine. No problems. Me and Craig are even good now.
Yeah, we're just gonna send like passive aggressive like confessionals about each other.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. As boys do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a really hard scene to watch, unfortunately. But then we get that followed up with an even harder scene to watch, in my personal opinion, when Madison goes over to Patricia's house. And obviously, you know, they were at Patricia's house the night before when Austen revealed this to Shep. So it's only fitting that Patricia would then get to kind of come on and be part of the gossip and the debrief.
Yeah. She's like the Lisa Vanderpump like required debrief of the night out. Like,
I think that's true. And I think we do appreciate it usually for the most part. But I have to admit, I was a little disappointed because then Patricia brings up the fact that she found out from Whitney that, which is also weird, that Whitney had received like a nude photograph from Taylor. And I was just like, why are we bringing this up? Like, why did
she had seen the photograph?
Yeah, like, why did you see it? And like, why did we not get like a confessional of Taylor being able to explain it to her, like her side of the story, or like what it was? Like, obviously our minds are just gonna go like wild and crazy when we hear that kind of information. So I just felt like that was like a little bit dangerous to kind of just like put out there.
No,
and,
totally.
like, walk away.
I wrote that too, actually. I was like, the way that Patricia spoke about it was
Mm-hmm.
very like kind of like shaming. Actually, not
Yes.
kind of, it was pretty
Very
blatant.
shaming. Yeah.
And she's like, oh, you know, like she's taking pictures and she's out with all these men or whatever. And it's just like,
Yeah. Come on.
like, and Patricia always does this. Like we
Yeah.
talked about this with Catherine too. Like she's always so critical of the
Mm-hmm.
women,
Yeah.
and she like just turns a blind eye on the men like
Yeah.
constantly. And I just felt like that was just so unnecessary. Like
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
also it's like, are they just gonna leave it at that? To your point, like, are we not gonna like I don't know. To me, that part felt fake. Like I don't like, and it was very weird. And even the text that apparently she had over it was "come one, come all" or something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That
then
was gross. That was
Shep
weird.
later used that same
I know.
terminology. Did you
I noticed that too.
in a scene that we'll pick up on, or I don't know if it was like that important of a scene, but
Yeah.
he literally said that as more of like the more the merrier.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was just like, this is all feeling too
Too
like,
perfect that it's
yeah,
like happened this way. Yeah, that's very possible. I mean, that very well could be a scene that they decided to like film later and just like slaughtered in there. Like we don't necessarily need, they could be like, oh, it was great seeing you last night, when it was like really 6 months ago that they filmed that original scene, and then they were like, well, let's just add this little bit of information in here.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that, I don't know, like something
Yeah.
about it just felt really strange. And like obviously like we don't like, you know, Taylor's still one of the newer characters. Like I don't know, but like I didn't feel, it didn't
Yeah.
feel like she would do that.
Well, and even if she did, like I think, and she's addressed it too. Like I saw a video online where she addressed it
Oh, she
today.
did.
Yeah, and she was basically saying that it was happening while she found out that Shep and Whitney were kind of gallivanting around with women. Like women, like these people are always like, oh, it's so shameful for women to be doing stuff like this, and it's like, but men are also doing it like with the women. Like everybody's doing this together. Like we're all behaving in whatever ways we're behaving. We don't need to like code it one way for men and one way for women.
No.
Anyway,
Well, and that's exactly
but
what, you know, this show has a problem with
yeah,
a lot of the time.
yeah. And Taylor was basically just saying that she like really didn't even feel like, she didn't feel like it was appropriate. She didn't feel proud of it in the moment. It was just kind of like supposed to be like a little bit of a retribution-y thing to get back at Shep. And
Okay, so it did happen.
So it did happen, but she made it sound like it wasn't like, full frontal, like from a magazine or something. Like it was probably a little bit more scantily clad than your average photo, but probably not too crazy for anything that we see on Instagram on the day-to-day, right?
Yeah, and like I would definitely hope that like if it was like I don't know, just like the fact that like Whitney's like, here, mom, you want to see this?
Oh, I just got the craziest message. And also, like, if you were with Shep at the time, like, did you save it? Like, and then like go home and like talk to your mom about it afterwards? Like,
yeah, I don't know. Too much weirdness.
It's not information we need. But anyways, so moving on from that. So the next scene that we get is between two of the OGs, which I was excited by. Craig and Shep meet up to have some beers. They're at this like little outdoor patio, kind of like at this like port area of Charleston, which looks super cute. I was like, I want to go there.
No, every time I watch the show, I'm like, I want to go.
I know, right? So they meet up. They basically are kind of like debriefing like on what like happened the night before. Like, Austen's obviously called Craig and complained to Craig a little bit. I think as is Austen's right. I'll give him that one. And Chef basically just talks about how he appreciates that Austen has like manned up. And Craig is basically kind of like, well, I can't believe that he's been lying for months, right? Like, I can't believe that he didn't tell us, like, us of all people, right? But yeah, and Craig also really just doesn't even think that Shep is fully over it too, right? Like I think he hears Shep saying, oh well, I'm glad that he manned up and I'm glad that he was honest, and he's like, yeah, you can say that, but like I think that like you have like some deeper feelings here.
Oh yeah, for sure. You know what? I actually found myself agreeing with Craig a lot this episode.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, but when they brought up the timeline, that's also where I got confused, because apparently this happened like 6 months ago.
Okay.
So like why is it suddenly coming back up now?
Like the makeout?
Yeah, like where did even like where did the spark even come? Like they had sat on this for like 6 months, and now it's like in the air.
I think it was just because of like the closeness of the two of them, and like especially like when JT like first came into the like show, right?
Oh, it
Like
was JT.
those first few episodes, he was very much kind of being like, "Hey, what's going on with you and Taylor? What's going on with you and Taylor?" And Craig obviously was also kind of being like, "Well, hey, what is going on with you and Taylor?"
Right.
And Shep was like, "I don't want to know what's going on with you."
But, like, have they been saying this for like 6 months? And like, I don't know. But also, like, apparently Shep was like traveling, I think, with Austen.
Yes,
So maybe
yeah,
it was just like they all got back together.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's just it. And it does seem like this thing that happened like was so long ago, and it really does feel like there's no like lingering feelings between Austen and Taylor. Like I don't think. Like I think that they had more chemistry last season than they've had so far this season. And obviously
Yeah.
like now like whatever's happening between the two of them, like we don't know, I guess.
And apparently
But
Taylor has a boyfriend now.
oh good. Good for her. Hopefully
Yeah.
somebody outside of the friend group.
Oh my gosh, I really hope so. I think that
Not
like
because
just
I
came
don't think
out.
she should be able to date people within the friend group, because she should, but I think she deserves to date somebody outside of the friend
Yeah,
group.
like just like you shouldn't in
Yeah,
general.
you don't need that.
Yeah.
But anyways, so they end up talking about how Shep is going to be throwing a dinner party later this evening. He's obviously talked all about like for like the last two episodes about these pheasants that he's gone out and hunted.
I was
He's
gonna say like
procured.
they probably said the word pheasant more
I
times in
know.
these like two episodes than like any Bravo series.
Like literally, right? And like
Like, are
also
we sponsored by like pheasant?
pheasant hunting. I mean, I guess it is supposed to be kind of like one of the like hallmarks of Southern Charm is that they do these like things where they like go out fishing and they go out hunting. Yeah, and it really didn't even make eating pheasants seem very appealing too. The whole scene where they're like talking about like the bones and how the bones are really tiny and it's easy to eat them. I was like, that sounds awful. I don't want. Anyways, so he's throwing a dinner party for people to be able to come and eat these pheasants. And the good news is that we find out that Paige is going to come back into town and she's going to be here for the dinner party. So
Paige
that was pretty
killed
exciting.
it like in her like one like section of the episode that she was in, just like her reads, amazing.
I
definitely
know.
want to talk about those.
I know, it was so good. Well, and even in the next scene, so she does arrive in Charleston. They go and she and Craig go and hang yeah Craig go hang out at Craig's house for a little bit, and I just had to say, because there's like a little bit of a praise moment for Paige, there's a couple more coming up later as well. I just loved her hair in the flashback when they like look back at like what like when they're like planning like the house and stuff. She has these like curtain bangs and it's like so 70s-y. It's so cute. I really miss that haircut.
Her like longer hair.
Yeah, well, longer, but also just the bangs and the way it was like so fluffy and like yeah, it was cool. I really liked it. I miss that haircut. It's now too. It's like it's very sleek now. It's like too cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't identify with it. Anyway, so that's my little note on Paige and her arrival in Charleston.
And she has her own bedroom.
And she does. Isn't that interesting? I thought that was so cool. I would love to have my own bedroom.
Their whole setup is really interesting, but honestly, it seems to work for them. Like I know a lot of people criticize them a lot, but like you know what?
Good for you.
They do it. Yeah,
yeah.
You do you, boo.
Collect those miles too. Pavitt would be proud. So we finally get to the very like definitely the biggest part of the episode, right? We have Shep's dinner party. It's kicking off. We find out that it's actually being hosted at one of his friends' houses. So some normal people are going to be amongst this crowd, which always makes things a little bit interesting.
Yeah, to see the shocked faces when chaos ensues.
You're just like, what is going on? And Paige and Craig are the first guests to arrive, quickly followed by Taylor, who has her cute little reunion with baby Craig, or like little Craig, little dog Craig.
God. I wrote that down. Honestly, watching Shep cry when he saw like little Craig so excited to see Taylor,
I know,
really got me in the feels.
I know.
Like you feel that, and like that was like honestly like I didn't expect to have this reaction from Shep. Like he couldn't help it. He just started crying right away, and it's true. Like they're a little family, and like his dog, like that was his mom.
Yeah, that's just it. And you always like feel so much for, because like animals like never get this, right? Like they don't get that you have a breakup and that you can't see that person anymore every day.
Yeah.
And like you don't get to explain to them like this is why things are this way. Like there's none of that. So they're just like the
Yeah.
pure unadulterated excitement that they have when they have those like little moments of reunions. It is very touching.
No, I know. And like, I don't know, just like being like such a dog lover and like
Yeah.
having a Frenchie myself, it just
Yeah.
like it really got me in the feels.
It
And
was
like
really cute.
it was really sweet. And then like Taylor's just like, they're there.
You're gonna be okay. Yeah. So most of the guests arrive, and Shep decides that it's an opportune time to take Taylor aside, have a little conversation. I did think it was interesting the way that Shep started off this conversation. He kind of says, obviously that was a really bad decision on a lot of levels. And I just think this is something that happens in the housewives reality TV world a lot, where like the energy that you bring into a conversation is really telling on how that conversation is going to go. This happened with like Heather and Whitney last year in Salt Lake City. It's happened like countless times on almost every Beverly Hills episode. But like you just unfortunately can't usually get to a very good place if you start off the conversation that way.
Right.
But luckily for Shep and Taylor, this actually did work out pretty well. She calls him out for the fact that like he had kind of like stepped out on her on their relationship, and he says, I can accept that, I understand that we're flawed. And for the most part I think they're able to kind of get to a good place. They're able to hug it out. They decide that they're going to be civil. It is interesting that like Paige kind of like there's like the scene is interjected with like a scene of like Paige and Austen and Craig talking about how like you can really see that Shep loves Taylor.
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting that that narrative kind of like keeps on coming up throughout the series. I don't know if I'm like a little bit too bitter or what, but I'm just kind of like, I don't know, like are we being too nice to Shep in this? I'm not really sure.
I mean, I don't think it's like a niceness to Shep. I actually thought that too. Like I do think that Shep really loved Taylor, and I do think that like he like I feel like if there was someone that it would work with, it would have been Taylor.
Yeah.
Like she just seemed to really get him and like let him be him, and they seemed to get along really well.
Yeah.
When he wasn't, calling her an idiot for dropping an egg on the floor,
going on to Raya, like
and cheating on her. So like not even in like a oh poor Shep, more just like I do think he really loved her. Unfortunately, his Peter Pan syndrome is just like never going to be broken.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And I guess that compounded with like the whole like dog thing as well. Like that definitely makes it a little bit touching.
It's true.
But
like you do find yourself being like, no, wait, stop it. Like you cheated, and also you're Shep
on her.
Exactly. Like because like Shep is like, I definitely don't think Shep's like the victim in this the way that Craig said.
No, exactly. And we like we want to be we like to play both sides of the fence a little bit here, I think.
Just kind of I mean like that's just it. It's like this is complicated. Like we said the last time, like no one's really right. Except for Olivia, who's like literally done nothing wrong. But like everyone else is just like in lots of shades of gray, and like they're all kind of culpable, like and that's just it with Shep too, is like and that's what Taylor is telling him too, is like in her mind she's like, you don't have a leg to stand on, like you cheated on me while we were in a relationship. Anything I did after a relationship, it must hurt him. And like I agree, it's not great, more so for Olivia than for Shep, but like Shep was not the perfect boyfriend,
unfortunately. He just like couldn't seem to be faithful, unfortunately.
I do really like sorry, one last thing with the Paige thing is I really like when she was like, oh wow, like you can tell that he really loves her, and then she's like to Austen, she's like, do you love her?
I know. Like, and then he's like, well, I always want her to be in my life. Like, okay, way to go, Austen. Way to make a decision and really want to like be with a woman, like really commit to somebody. Great job.
He's like, I just want everyone to be there if I ever feel to need them.
Exactly. Just in case there's ever a moment when I'm feeling weak. That's actually kind of funny. It makes me think about like one of the lines that Paige says to Austen when Olivia like then kind of comes into the dinner party, because he's like, oh, I don't know, like, should I go up and hug her, like, should I kiss her, like, what do I do? And Paige like just like kind of says, like, I don't know if she says it like directly to them, but she's like, I hate being in charge of the two of you.
I know, I noted that too, and it was like kind of in the background, so like
Yeah,
you could have like missed it, but I was just like, oh, I love Paige so much. And
I know, we really needed her like little snarky asides in this episode, so that was really nice.
they were so good. I
It was so
loved
good.
them.
It was so
And
good.
then we get to the part where Olivia comes, right? And then
Yeah.
like, and yeah, Austen, okay, this is where classic Austen goes into his best performance of running away.
Yeah.
He's like, what do I do? Do I hug her? Like, I don't know. And then he just like literally hides in the
Just
kitchen.
does nothing.
Does literally nothing. Very
Yeah.
reminiscent of like the first episode when Craig and Taylor get having a fight and he's like friends with both of them and he literally hides with his hand like under his arm the whole time, and it's just like like we can think of so many, like my mind went back to like Summer House where he just always does this.
Yeah.
He just like throws a grenade and he runs away.
Yeah. And then like later on in the episode, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but like later on in the episode, he's like, why don't you come talk to me? And it's like, well, you didn't go talk to her either. Like, come on. Anyway,
he's like, why don't you want to talk to me? Like, why is everyone else good and like we're not good?
We're not good. It's like, even though you put in literally no effort, Austen, like, come on. Anyways, so as you mentioned, Olivia enters the dinner party at Shep's house, or Shep's friend's house, and Taylor takes this moment to kind of quickly go over to Austen and say, hey, I'm gonna go talk to her, and I need you to tell her that you told me not to tell her, like, which I appreciated. I think that was good that Taylor kind of like squared that up and was like, I need you to back me up here.
And Austen was basically like, never.
And that was unfortunately probably Taylor's like last like good, level-headed moment in the episode.
Yeah.
She then goes over and greets Olivia. She gets her a little glass of wine, which seems like a good start. She says, I want to talk to you, like, can I take you aside? And then she has a very kind of like weird Michael Scotty kind of moment. Like, I just felt like the way that she was like managing herself and like the words that she was saying was like so strange. I wrote it down because I was just like, this is too weird, because she was already having the conversation in her mind with Olivia, even though she hadn't told Olivia what had happened yet, right? Like,
right,
that's kind of what was happening.
That's true.
So she says, so I don't know if you want to, I have to be honest with you, like, I have to be honest. That's why I wanted to talk to you this morning, because I was like, I do not want Olivia walking in there being the only one knowing.
Yeah, it's like, but you didn't tell her what.
Only one not knowing, like, what are you talking about? And then she's like, this is like not fair to her. And then she just blurts out, the truth is, we did kiss.
It's so true. It's so true. There was like none of the context. You're just like, hi, hello, how are you? And also
go right into this.
And also like, they're literally in the middle of the kitchen. Like everyone can hear them.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking that, and I'm like, oh, maybe it's just like the angles of the camera. Yeah, maybe it's the perspective.
Yeah.
And then Olivia's like, okay, well, like everyone's here. And then literally they all turn around like, yeah, maybe you should chat.
Yeah, you guys should go over there.
Because we can all hear you.
Yeah. I know. Just like, I feel like I'm like literally in the Twilight Zone right now. Like, what is happening? Yeah, I think that I wonder if that is just kind of like Taylor like not being like fully seasoned yet, and like not understanding that, like, okay, you can't just like start the conversation with somebody. Like, Olivia hadn't even taken off her coat. Like, she was still dressed.
But
like,
also just like outside of a television show. Just like, why would you have that conversation in the middle of the room?
That is true. That is true. You should have been like, I want to talk to you. Can we go talk over here? And then said all of that. But unfortunately, that is not how it goes down.
Yeah, I honestly just felt so bad for Olivia, like walking into this room where like everyone knew but her.
Yeah, like, everybody knew what was gonna happen too. I feel like everybody probably knew that this was gonna be the dinner where like everything was gonna come out.
Yeah, and they showed that like Taylor tried to meet her before.
Yes,
but like Olivia said no, and I feel like Taylor should have like pushed on that.
Yeah,
like you just feel really bad for her, and like then later Olivia says too, like she's like, I didn't have time to react,
Yeah.
like we just had to like go to dinner. Like
Yeah.
it's just yeah, I feel bad for her.
Yeah, well, that's just it. Like like Olivia walks into Shep's dinner party. She has her coat on. She like gets handed a glass of wine. She gets told, I kissed Austen. And then she's like, okay, and now we're just in front of all these people having this conversation, trying to find out the details of like, were you drunk? Like, did it happen in New York? Did it happen at his house? Like, what was going on? And like just like bombarded with all this information, like hasn't even like fully settled in at all.
No.
Definitely felt like it was inopportune timing, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean,
But
great television, but felt really
yeah,
bad.
definitely felt bad for her. Yeah. Especially because we kind of, and I don't know, I don't want to like, linger on it, but like I think the fact thing is like in the back of my mind, I'm like, and her brother's gonna pass away, and that's gonna be awful, and that's coming up like
I know.
probably pretty soon.
I thought about that too, like especially in her confessional when she was crying a little bit or like almost on the verge of tears,
Yeah.
and she's like, this is gonna change our friendship. Like this
Yeah.
sucks. Like why did you have to do this? Everything's
Yeah.
gonna change now.
Yeah.
And I did wonder if that like when the timeline of that confessional was done as well. Like
Yeah.
was she also dealing with all these other like this obviously way worse, more heavy
Yeah.
thing that made this
Yeah.
feel inconsequential, which is essentially what she says later. Like
Mhm.
we talked about this last episode, like in a podcast, she's like, her brother died in the midst of this, and
Mhm.
this just didn't matter, and they just
Yeah.
kept making her talk about it apparently.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
they just kept thinking that that was the most important thing, and it's
Yeah,
like
that's just it. Well, and
and if
they were probably getting probed from their producers too. Not that I want to blame their production like or anything, but like to be like, hey, did you have that conversation with Olivia that you said you were going to have? And it's like, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, you just have to either go do your work or you bow out,
yeah,
and maybe you take a semester off, you take that season off. But
no, well,
yeah.
that's it. Like we already just feel so bad for Olivia just in this scenario. Like, and she even said too, she's like, it's not that it happened. It's not like you lied to me for like 6 months and that
Mhm.
and then Olivia's like, or Taylor is like, I was protecting Austen.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, why weren't you protecting me? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, protecting me and protecting my feelings, like
yeah,
in all of this. And like if Chef had told me that, I would like that's what she says is like if Chef had told me that, like I would have punched him in the face, like which is great. And I believe that Olivia genuinely would have done that. And I do think it is unfortunate that like Taylor got caught up in like lying for Austen, and like clearly Taylor had seen one side of Austen, and Olivia was always trying to tell her about like this other side of him that
yeah,
Taylor is now unfortunately seeing, I think at least getting glimpses of, and maybe she's not fully there yet. But it's just unfortunate that like it has kind of all gone down this way, and their friendship has been the biggest part that's been hit in all of this.
And then we move on to what I'm calling Southern Charms dinner party from hell to rival the New York City dinner party from hell.
It was pretty amusing. It was very fun. The New York City, you mean the Beverly Hills?
Oh, Beverly Hills.
Yeah. Dinner party from hell. Yeah, it was interesting. So Shep obviously is like, well, the supper is ready. So now we need to have supper. And Austen is like, dude, you cannot like interfere in this exchange right now. And he's like, well, the food's gonna get cold. So Shep goes and interrupts Olivia and Taylor while they're in the midst of this big discussion. And it actually kind of feels like, they're hashing things out, and it feels like they're getting a little bit of progress. Olivia like specifically says like, I just care about you.
Yeah.
In regards to Taylor, and Shep is just like, here I am. I'm gonna come. Like, let's brush this all under the rug. Let's all go sit down. I think that'll be good.
Yeah, literally.
And yeah, that was a bit unfortunate. Shep does, they do all go sit down, and Shep decides to give a little toast. And this toast ends up being kind of like about like what a good person everybody is.
Oh my God, yeah.
Which I think was good natured, and was hoping that it would kind of like bring a little bit of peace and like remind everybody, we're all good people. There's nobody bad here, nobody malicious. Say what we will about Austen. And I just remember thinking that like it's got to be so weird for the normal people at that table to be like sitting there just being like that great, that like Shep being like, excuse me, I'm getting lost in my words. That like being grateful that Shep has kind of like brought this into their house and like brought these people over to like have this weird meal with them. Like,
I mean, they have to know. If anyone has seen parts of the show, I feel like
yeah,
if you open up your home to anything, like
yeah,
you're
chances are
yeah, it's probably gonna go
something,
sideways.
yeah,
But
especially in big dinner party scenes.
yeah, this dinner was so strange. And like I
Yeah.
love how Craig kept calling it out. He's like, no matter how many times Shep can say like we're all good, it's super weird.
Mm-hmm.
They're all just pretending to be friends, and then like
Yeah.
Taylor and Shep are even like kind of making jokes, and she's like, I'm
Yes.
like, like kissing Bandit or whatever,
Yeah.
to I guess, which like makes Austen angry because he's like,
Yeah.
like, why am I the only one that
Yeah,
like
like why do
someone's
they
mad
get to
at?
be buddy buddies, but I can't be buddy buddies with Olivia? Um,
Yeah,
yeah, well, and it's interesting too, because like right before she says that she's like the kissing queen and whatnot, Taylor like is kind of interestingly like uh, confused as to why Olivia like is taking this, seeing this as such a big deal, or like is making such a big deal out of a kiss, right? Like that's basically what she kind of like it comes down to. And I'm kind of surprised that Taylor would say, why are they making such a big deal out of this? It was just a kiss. When it's like, but you just heard, or you should have just heard what Olivia was saying to you in the living room, which was,
yeah,
I can't believe that you guys had this from me for so long. There were so many opportunities that I gave you to tell me the truth. Like, why are you protecting him? Why were you lying to me for him? And like making
yeah,
me feel like an idiot. And like,
yeah.
why? And then also, like, why have you brought this information to me now at this dinner party instead of like at any other point in time when you could have mentioned it to me
But
that this is what had happened?
yeah, but that's just it. And that's, I think, when
Yeah.
you realize that like, Taylor and Austen just don't really grasp like why people are upset. And
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
not so much as like what happened, and that in and
Yeah.
of itself is upsetting, but it's really more about how they handled it after,
Yeah.
and that they lied.
Yeah.
And like Taylor did not need to go so hard in her lie. Like she didn't
No.
like
Hand
she
to God,
hand to
hand
God.
on the Bible,
Yeah,
swear on my life.
like
Like,
oh my God, just say no.
like it's okay. She
Yeah.
still probably would have believed you if you just been like, nah, it never happened. I'm
I
sorry.
I know. I read that more as like Taylor just trying to
Yeah.
distract from the
Right.
situation. Like I
Maybe.
know, like
Yeah. Like
yeah, it was
also
just
kind of
kind of
like,
like, oh my
yeah.
God, I can't believe all this over a kiss. And it's like, girl,
Yeah.
that's not true.
Yeah, that's not what this is about, unfortunately. Yeah, well, and then after that, Austen does take on the baton quite nicely of becoming the biggest jerk at this dinner party. But before we get into that, I did want to say, so Paige and Austen are having like a little aside at the dinner table between the two of them. And I just have to go to bat for Paige for a second here. I just think that Paige is like such a great addition to Southern Charm in general, and I think she's
Yeah.
great on reality TV. And I think that like this scene is like a proof of that, right? Because she says to Austen when he's kind of talking about how like he doesn't want to talk to Olivia because uh about like the kiss with Taylor, because if he does do that, Olivia's gonna like want to like have her moment. And he's like, and if that happens, like I'm gonna be livid. And like Paige is like, I would be livid too. I get that, but and I literally wrote this down. But that is fully your ego, and you have to be more secure than that. And I just thought that that was like poetry. Like I just thought
Yeah.
that that was like so amazing. Like a self-aware queen, love it. We love to see it. Reality TV needs more of that. But it's also kind of like a good read on Austen too, right? Like being
Oh
like,
yeah.
your ego is talking right now. You sound like a douchebag.
So
and
that's
like
so true.
and like just be secure in yourself. Like you don't need to
Yeah.
worry about the fact that like maybe Olivia's gonna try to have a moment when like also like she's just responding to the information that she's just been
But
handed.
that's
Like,
it. So I actually didn't hear what they were like. I didn't catch all of that. So I didn't know he said
mm,
that she's gonna try to have a moment.
yeah,
That is so rude.
Right?
Like you're like literally what you just said, like her reacting to being betrayed
Yeah.
is her having a moment like,
Right.
okay, like yeah, oh no,
Yeah.
no.
And like it's like I can't even engage with Olivia because if I talk to her, she's gonna try to have a moment
And
about
it's like, you know
this.
what? If she did,
Yeah.
she's completely entitled to it. And you can,
Right?
sit down and listen. Like, I think actually Paige said earlier, like, just
Yeah.
say, I'm sorry, and
Yeah.
that's it. Like,
Yeah. Just like let it be.
but
Right.
that's not what he is able to do. And then he
Yeah.
starts like yelling over the table, like,
Yeah.
why are we not good? Basically, this is actually where I was like standing with Craig, which
Mhm.
again, I was like very surprised by because
Another
Shep was
moment.
like, why can't we just all be happy? Like, whatever, whatever. And
Mhm.
Craig's like, you can't force her to like just because you're
Yeah.
okay with it doesn't mean that she's okay with it. She just found out this information. Like, I know
Mhm.
you're pretending that we're all like one big happy family, but like it's so unfair for you to like be all kind of like outraged that
Yeah.
Olivia is having feelings in this moment. And
Yeah.
I was happy that Craig like stood up for her.
Yeah, yeah, I did appreciate that. And I appreciated that Craig had like a good kind of perspective on it too, that he like actually understood what was happening in that moment and he wasn't getting just like kind of caught up in all the drama and like everybody yelling basically.
Yeah, which is
Because
also
it's
just funny
pretty easy to
because
do.
oh, this is true, and it's like this is like it's still a Bravo show, right? Like people pop
Hmm.
off at like
Yeah.
inopportune moments, so
Yeah.
it was just like I feel like this is the one time that they're all like, oh, you're yelling at the dinner table, and like yeah, I
Yeah.
understand that you're at someone else's house and like that's rude and like makes it
Yes.
worse, but like it was
Yeah.
also just like they've popped off about so many less important things. Like why can't she just? And she's not even popping off. She was just kind of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
speaking to him.
Exactly. And like so basically like Olivia when she gets back to the table, she like is kind of asking if Austen and Shep are now good. And like Olivia's like, oh sorry. I keep on getting confused by these names. The names just seem wrong.
Okay,
Anyways.
you saw that Instagram too, where it's like there's
Yes.
Taylor and Olivia, and they're like they feel
Yeah.
like they should be swapped, and
Don't
like
they totally
they
feel like they
really
should be
do.
swapped?
They totally
It's
do.
not right. It's not right at all. I'm so confused. Literally in my notes, every time I was like writing their name, I was like, the other one. But so Olivia gets back to the table. She asks Taylor, like, if the boys are good. Taylor's like, oh, ask them, like, that's not on me, whatever. And then weirdly, like, so Olivia's like, oh well, I don't want to talk to them. Like, I don't want to do that. And he's like,
Oh yeah,
Austen's like, why can't we be civil? Why can't we be good?
yeah.
Like, I don't understand why we can't have this good relationship.
Sorry, I jumped ahead.
No, 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 no. But it's just like so that's what the exchange is that they're having, and this is kind of like where all of this like spins out of control, and Shep literally like gets up and like leaves the table.
Oh
Like
yeah. Now that I think about it, actually, that's like super unfair of Shep because I feel like he just wants Olivia to basically be on the same page as him always. Because
yeah,
like when he was just finding out about this, he was kind of like riling her up, right? Like there was some
right. Yes.
episodes where he was
Yes.
like trying to, be like, isn't that messed up? Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah.
And now he's like,
Yeah.
why can't we just be good? Like, gosh,
Yeah.
like
Like let's get
calm
over it.
down.
I'm done. I'm good. That was like
Like
a whole week ago. Yeah, well, and I also think that like part of the reason Shep is a little bit upset in this moment is that he's like he's a little bit embarrassed, right? That like his friends are probably behaving this way in front of like his
you're
normal friends. Like
that's true. That's
that would
fair.
maybe be kind of my like read on that. But as you say, like the Rodrigo, like his best moment of the show, which was kind of his only moment of the show, but also a very good moment in general, is that like then when Shep and Craig are having that exchange where they are like literally yelling across the dining room table, because Shep is upset that there was yelling happening across the dining room table. Rodrigo's like, well, that's what you were just doing. Like, he just like totally calls Shep out for that, which I really appreciated. I thought that was super
Good
cute.
job,
Good
Rodrigo.
job, Rodrigo. 1 point for Rodrigo.
I
I feel like I'm saying that name wrong. Rodrigo.
don't know. He
Yeah.
hasn't been on the show enough for us to
Maybe,
know.
maybe I've just said it too many times now. Um, but yeah, so like in the span of basically like 5 minutes, like Austen basically decides that like Olivia's trying to have a moment. He goes after her for not being civil and not being able to be like in a good place with him. He also then calls her unhappy towards everybody, which is like just not true. And claims that she needs to be the one that comes and talks to like him. And
Yeah.
then on top of that, he finishes it off with being like, "You are so silly." which is just like, that would have been enough for me to like pop off at somebody if like they ever talked to me that way, let alone like Austen with the whole kind of like, you know, everything that we know about him and
No,
how he
exactly.
usually behaves.
But you know what? And then when they actually go sit outside and talk,
Yeah,
like Olivia really let him have it. And I was actually like super impressed with how she held her ground. And like she really doesn't crumble under pressure. And I feel, I don't know, this feels like a different, like more confident type of person than we saw last season.
I think that's true. I think she really has like she definitely feels like she's kind of like found her footing in the group. And she kind of like understands like the role that she can play as well. I think those are both kind of like what's happening.
I was like
here.
really impressed. Like I feel like he just kept trying to run his mouth and like you know, make excuses like woe is me Austen style, and she was just like not having any of it. She just like shut him down.
Well, and that's just it. And like it's just so strange because he's kind of like he starts off the conversation being like, I'm sorry, you know, obviously I should have been the one to come and talk to you. He's literally just had this exchange with her at the dining room table of being like, you know, you're unhappy, you're silly, you know, cannot be civil, you cannot be good. Not good in that way, but you know, civil and good, whatever. And then he's like calling her out for like not being friendly towards him. And it's like, but what effort have you put into being friendly towards her? And I think she brings that up as well, too. And I think she's kind of questioning like the timing of this, too, of like, well, why does it matter now? Like, why all of a sudden do we need to kind of like have this like good relationship? We've been dodging each other for months in Charleston. Like, what's up with this? Like, is this just for the show? I think is kind of like the underlying current of that. But anyways, you know, I just think that he kind of like then comes back to that being like, you know, I just want to be friends with you and I want you in my life, which just feels like such a hollow thing to say too. Like it just doesn't feel like there's any like substantial reasoning behind it or like any proof that he actually does want to do that. Like
no, I know.
It's weird.
Yeah.
That's basically the episode. There were a couple good lines there at the very end with Olivia that I noted down.
Oh, good, because that went so fast. I feel like the whole like end of that dinner, I like parts I didn't even catch.
It was crazy. There was a lot going on. But she said, it's baffling to me that she doesn't see what kind of a person you are.
Oh, yes. Love it. Like that was good. That was good. And then he was like, oh.
Yeah. And then she says, literally talking to you makes me want to vomit respectfully. Like perfection. Respectfully talking to you makes me want to vomit. So I really appreciated that. I thought that was such a good episode for Olivia, like overall.
It was just a really good episode, honestly. I was like really pleased with it.
Yeah, like obviously not good actions or like things happening around her, and I feel bad for her in that way. But like overall, the way that she's held herself is pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, totally, definitely. Applause to Olivia.
Yeah,
and then like should be named Taylor.
Yeah, exactly. And then like special snaps to like to Paige and Craig. We'll give them their dues. Rodrigo
Honorable
gets
mention.
Little snaps for Rodrigo.
None for Austen or Shep.
None for Austen or Shep. Not yet.
No, that was fun. It was a really fun episode. Let us know. We haven't done like a pure recap like this before, so let us know if this is something you're into. We're definitely going to continue talking about like Southern Charm.
Yeah, we're obsessed, especially now that it feels like it's really ramping up and getting good.
I know. I'm super excited. Before we go,
all right,
we have a little surprise for you.
Oh my god, I can't believe it. I don't know what it is.
Okay, so thanks to our incredible community of Couchwives, you know, we hit 1,000 subscribers and still going. If you have subscribed, thank you so much. We are like so over the moon to have reached this first milestone. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Join our lovely community of Couchies. Still trying to find a name. But anyways, so do you remember what we said that we would get when we hit 1,000?
Oh my god, is it what I think it is?
I don't know, because I have a background. I don't know if it's gonna show.
Oh my god, it's so cute.
Is it not the best thing ever?
Oh my god, they're picked.
Look at the pink laces.
Oh my god, that is so
okay,
cute.
this
Sorry.
is unfortunate that you can't see. Oh
Oh no, now you're gone.
There we go. Yay! There she is. And it says RCW on the back and 1K.
Oh my god, what?
And one is coming to you.
That is so cute. Thank you so much.
We gotta rock that everywhere. Actually, yeah. So my boyfriend actually got this for us 2 weeks before we hit 1,000. So he just knew that it was gonna happen.
Oh my god, that's so crazy. Damn. Oh, yeah. I love that. Thank you.
So yeah, well, thank you to all of our couchies. Now we're repping you guys on our shoes.
It's just the first of many, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly.